Welcome, everyone, to the Zorich Podcast. I am Chris Zorich, and on today's show, I have a former teammate, All-American, and I'm kind of jealous about this, the leading tackler of our 1988 National Championship team, the Wes Pritchett, was it 112 or 114 tackles?
Well, it was 112, but I realized that did not include the Fiesta Bowl.
Oh, shit. Okay, so then how many are we talking about? 115? 113? Yeah. You only made one tackle in the fucking Fiesta Bowl.
I had 3 tackles in the Fiesta Bowl.
That's all you had?
Well, if you just go by the average, it'd be more like 122, 23.
Fair enough.
Dude, and by the way, you can't find those stats anywhere. I think they just, when we finished school, whatever disc
they
had
burned them.
Actually, I don't even know we had discs back then. They took the granite tablets that they had written it on, and they broke them and threw them away.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Wes Pritchett, who was the biggest prankster. Kind of, it just really kind of allowed me to kind of have fun while I played. And Wes, you don't know a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about, but it's great to have kind of an example that you had for me, because I was always kind of afraid and kind of nervous playing because I was afraid I was going to mess up. But then when I was on the field with you guys in '88, all that went out the window, and I just had a lot of fun because you were this great example of being a great leader, but more importantly, having fun doing it on the field and stuff. So we're obviously going to talk about that, but I want to talk a little bit about kind of how you got into football. I'm sure you weren't born with a helmet or those great good looks you have. So how did you get involved?
My dad played football. He was very passionate about football, and I have 3 boys, 16, 15, and 12 that play football.
Nice.
Yeah, they're very involved in athletics. They're a lot smarter and more athletic than their father, thankfully, but they don't look like it, thankfully. So, anyway, I remember when I was, I guess, 6 or 7. I think I was 7.
Okay.
I wanted to do karate. And so my dad said, okay, you can do karate. And so I went and did karate or whatever. I don't remember. I didn't do it for very long. And I remember driving home. I don't know why I remember this, because I don't remember really anything else from that time period. But I remember him saying, what do you think about football? And I said, no, I think I'm just going to stick with karate. He said, well, why don't we just go over to the park and sign up? I said, okay, I can do that. Well, it ended up, he coached me my first 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so he ended up being the head coach of my 7-year-old team. And then he had this guy, Billy Tees, who had been a star football player at Georgia Tech, Joe Delaney, who had been a star football player at Georgia Tech. He had about 6 coaches.
Wow.
But we were 7 and 8 years old being coached by 2 All-Americans from Georgia Tech, my old man.
That's awesome.
We didn't take it very seriously or anything, but so that was it. I mean, we laughed too. If you had watched the tapes of me playing at 7, 8, 9, and 10, I don't think you would have thought that football was my future. But somewhere along the line, it clicked. So
that's hilarious. So did you have any siblings, or were you the only child, or how'd that work out?
I have a younger, dumber, shorter brother.
There you go.
No, I have. I thought you knew my brother Roland, but yeah. So I have. Roland was. I have one brother and an older half sister, a younger full brother.
Okay.
3 years behind me. He played football at Boston College.
Perfect.
He was wide receiver, quarterback. Well, he went in as a quarterback and he ended up getting moved. And he played defensive back. He played a little bit of everything.
Okay, so were you guys ever on the same team, or?
No, but we do have a picture. I should go get it and bring it in here. But there's a picture of of he and me and my father at Notre Dame on the field in our football uniforms. So,
oh, wow. Grab it, man. I mean, I could edit this part out. You can go grab it if you know where it is. All right.
you know, so my father was very inspirational for me in my entire life.
Okay.
They used to call him Santini. That gives you an idea. He was not quite Santini, but he was intense. I mean, he was
Nice.
My dad was somewhere between Vince Lombardi and Santini, I think. But
so was it
a lot for my brother and I?
Okay, well, but I mean, so was he the kind of guy on the sidelines when you're playing? I mean, you said he only coached you for a couple of years, but after that, like, was he at all the games kind of, yelling,
Every
or was
game,
he just kind of?
He never sat in the stands with the other parents.
He was that kind of guy.
He would. When I played in high school, we had this gymnasium that was out. You play at night, so the gymnasium was about 500 yards away from the football stadium. I mean, the football.
Okay.
And we would walk kind of through the dark and then come up into the lights. It was pretty cool.
Okay.
My old man would meet me 250 yards from the stadium and be talking to me the whole way.
Oh my God.
To the football field. Yeah, dude.
Oh my God.
Everybody loved it. He would get it. He'd start talking to all the other kids and dude, he was crazy. He's a lot like, he was emotional. Let's just put it that way. He might have had a couple of drinks at that time. But anyway, no, it was great. I mean, he wasn't crying. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but no, he definitely met me, and he definitely did not sit with the other parents. And,
my God.
Look, he grew up in the Depression, was born in the Depression.
Right.
Tried to volunteer for World War II when he was 17 to be a paratrooper. He was a boxer. He was a tough guy. Different generation, man. They didn't take any.
Right.
He tells a funny story when he got drafted. So he ended up not being in World War II, but he was in the Korean War and he was in the Navy. And so they had, back then they had guys in the NFL got work.
Right. Right.
A guy named, Billy Wade, who was the starting quarterback for the Rams, ended up being his quarterback. He played with the guy for 4 years. And there was, let's say there were 22 starters. I think something like 11 of them were playing in the NFL on his team. So the Marines, the Navy, all these different groups had a football team that traveled around. So he tells this story. They had these two big practice fields in San Diego. And at the end of the practice field, there was a battleship, a cruiser, and a submarine, and if you didn't make the team, you just got on the ship and went.
That's great.
Yeah. So he played. So basically, he got hurt his freshman year. He went to college on a football scholarship, then he got hurt, then he got drafted. So he ended up basically playing his college career in the Korean War, and then he ended up getting married and having a kid, and he never played football again. So. But he was able to live it through you guys. So when you were playing, you score a touchdown, make a tackle, whatever you're doing, did you kind of know where he was, or you kind of heard his voice, or what was that like? I don't think I ever didn't know where he was. Whether I heard him or I was looking for him or whatever. Right. The only thing I wanted was to be able to come home and get his blessing. And even at Notre Dame, that was the case. Of course, at Notre Dame, he didn't really. He sort of backed down once I got to that level because he couldn't really believe. Well, that's actually not true. He would come home and he would just look at me and be like, "Wesley, what do you think about that? You pleased with the way you play?" Or he'd look at me and go, "Wesley, that was some pussy playing right there."
Wow, that's crazy.
He'd call it. He was like, when you didn't play hard, he was like, "That was titty pulling, son."
Oh my God!
You weren't hitting people in the mouth. That was just these old weird phrases that I knew what he meant.
God. Of course.
But then a lot of times he'd look at me square in the eyes and shake my hand firmly, look at me and be like, you play like a football player today. And that was all I ever wanted, I got more of those as the years went on, but growing up, I didn't get a lot of those.
Well, what about like in high school? I mean, was he instrumental and kind of giving you that confidence, that ability to kind of.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, my dad, I mean, he was tough on us, but he was I mean, he was a successful stockbroker. I mean, it's not like we didn't live in poverty.
Right. First of all, can you explain? Hold on, Wes, hold on a second. Can you explain a little bit, because I know what you're doing. You're petting your dog, but you're rubbing your dog and you're moving around, so it looks like you're doing something else as we're talking. So no, it didn't have to go away. You can give a show on TV, but it just looks a little weird. It just looks a little weird because it looks like you're doing something else as we're talking. That's all I'm talking about. It looks like you're doing something else as we're talking. That's all.
Understand.
And I'm not going to edit that out, by the way, because that looks hilarious.
I understand what you're saying.
Woo, folks, needless to say, we have spent way too much time together in our college days. Okay. No, so you were.
All right, so let me just
talk about your dad.
My dad was very influential. He was a tough guy. He played football. I always wanted his blessing. He was I think he, quite honestly, I knew when I didn't play good, and he didn't let me get away with bullshit. If I had a bad game, I'll never forget when I was starting as a sophomore and in high school, and we played the biggest team in Georgia, and they had this guy that was he ended up playing running back at Michigan. He was the leading rusher in Georgia. I mean, I think all these kids were on steroids. They were huge, 300-pounders in high school, and I was like 6'4", 165. And I get in the game, and I did not play well. And I missed a bunch of tackles. He's got all of his friends there, and I mean, he just laid it to me when I got out. But he was right. I was scared. I played scared. And I swore I would never do that again. So, sometimes you learn a lot more from your failures than your successes in life.
Exactly.
Exactly. I have. But I'll just jump into the saddest part of it, the whole story. So he saw me. So my junior year, we played BC. We got the picture with my dad on the field with my brother, which was like the highlight of his life. And then that summer going into my 5th year, he had a stroke and he never recovered. So he was in a coma the whole time we were winning the national championship. And that's why I had dedicated a season to it. But he never regained consciousness. So, I got.
Oh, man, I'm sorry about that, man.
Yeah, it was terrible. So, but that's life. So.
Wow, man, I'm sorry to hear about that, man. But at least, like you're saying, I mean, he had a chance to kind of get this iconic photo that obviously means something to the three of you guys. So that's really, really special.
It is special. Yeah, no. I mean, look, my problems are no bigger than anybody else's. I can tell you that. Overall in my life, if I got to be honest, I've been very blessed. So, you're not going to win them all. I mean, that's very true. Everybody has a struggle. I don't know where it is that we thought that we weren't going to have anything go wrong in our lives.
Right. No, I hear you.
You're going to have things that you don't like that are outside of your control, and you just got to deal with them, move on, learn from them. So. Absolutely.
So you're obviously balling.
I mean, I'm a much different, more grown, mature person. It had a lot of effect on me at that time.
Okay.
More so than I think I realized at the time.
At the time, right.
I reflect upon it now. But yeah, it was tough. I mean, I would come home and go out in Atlanta. I'd have to go see my dad laying there, he would look like he was going to get up and move, but he didn't, obviously. And then, it was just awful.
So you're obviously balling in high school. When you're thinking about kind of going to schools, what are the schools were you looking at besides Notre Dame?
Well, I grew up in Atlanta. My dad went to Georgia, or started there. My sister went to Georgia. Those were the Herschel Walker years. So I was class of 84. I was class of 84, and Herschel left in 83, I think. So he.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Whatever. So Georgia had been. Those are like the best years Georgia ever had up until the last 5. So they had been, I think, cotton sugar, or sugar, whatever. They had a really good team. So I was getting recruited. So I graduated from high school. I was 17. First of all, I should have had another year. I really, so I had a July birthday. I didn't turn 18 until I showed up at Notre Dame. But Georgia and I got hurt in the first game of the year at the start of the fourth quarter. I didn't play again until the last game of the year. So I only played 7 quarters my senior year. And here's a kicker. I only had 3 quarters of film.
What the hell?
I have no idea how I got recruited. I'm not even.
Well, you must have you must have kick-ass junior year.
Junior year, but I mean, obviously it was better than I thought it was. I don't know. It's definitely. Wow. I got letters from everybody. That when we didn't have combines, we didn't have.
Right.
There was nothing. It was all kind of word of mouth. So I had been getting recruited pretty heavily from there wasn't many schools I didn't get recruited by. Now, when I got hurt, there were some schools that dropped out that I was interested in. But basically, my trips I went to a real good academic school in Atlanta called Westminster.
Okay.
So academics were important. So I took trips to Georgia, Florida State, Vanderbilt, Duke, and Notre Dame. Those are my 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A wide range. And,
very.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I was loving UCLA. And the UCLA coaches were recruiting me like crazy. And they're like, we're 15 minutes from the beach. We're 15 minutes from Hollywood. We got the most beautiful girls. Our players can party with anyone. The weather's perfect. I'm like, I'm in. and the Georgia was open the season with UCLA my senior year. And 2 of their coaches were coming to watch me play. I mean, it was like they had put me, I was a priority.
Right.
And they get to the game, and I'm on crutches on the sideline. So they never got to see me play, and they never recruited me after that. But it all happens for a reason, dude. I can't explain it. But long story short, Georgia tried to get me to commit before I went on my last trip, which was Notre Dame.
Okay.
And I said, I'm not doing that. I have to go to Notre Dame because my dad had absolutely loved Notre Dame my whole life. He was a World War II generation. Notre Dame was the only team on the radio. They came from a generation in the 40s and 50s where Notre Dame was everything.
Right.
Then, there was college football, and then there was Notre Dame.
Right.
So, and when Notre Dame would play Georgia Tech in Atlanta, we would go to the Notre Dame game. Anyway, so I had to go to Notre Dame to see the campus. I get up there. I'm living in the South. Dude, I'd never been north in North Carolina. I go up to South Bend. It's in this weird North Midwest. There's a bunch of Yankees up there. It was freezing cold, and there was
of course
feet of snow on the ground. I had seen snow, but not much.
Jesus.
And then I get up there, and so we go out. And first of all, the first person I meet, so Mike Kovaleski is my host. Okay,
right.
Well, he's good friends with like Sean Heffern, who was an offensive lineman. So he's like, we're gonna go to my friend's house. So we go to this like dorm in Dillon, and it's Sean Heffern, Mike Perino, Tim Scannell, Wally Klein,
Jesus,
and I can't remember who else. Biggest human beings I have ever seen still in my life.
Was there any room in the room? I mean, the dorm room?
I'm like, we're like hanging out with these guys all night. I'm just like looking at Wally Klein, these guys walking around, and I'm like, dude, I'm 6'5", 205, 17-year-old kid. And I'm just looking, I'm like, I ain't ever going to play here. And so we went out, whatever weekend. I get home, and my dad's like, what do you think? This I can't remember if it was my father or whoever, but so then I'm like, well, it's between Notre Dame and Georgia, and I put the names in a hat, and I pull out Georgia, and put it back in, I pull out Georgia. I'm like, I think I want to go to Georgia. So then, like the next day or so, I call the coach, or the coach calls me, and he's like, well, in the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of commitments, and not really sure we have a scholarship at linebacker, but you're a smart guy, and if you could be a preferred walk-on, and we'll pay for your grad school. I said, what are you talking about, walk-on? He's like, yeah, you can't. Well, I don't think we don't have any more scholarships this year.
Oh,
all right, thank you very much. I hung up the phone, and I called Coach Kelly and said, I'm going to Notre Dame. I did not want to go to Notre Dame at the time.
Really?
No. Dude, I didn't want to go up north and freeze my ass. It's not like it is now. I mean, all my buddies were going to, Georgia and wherever, schools in the southeast, southwest.
Right.
Anyway, so then I commit Notre Dame. I'm all in. I get there, talking to Coach Faust. I mean, I'm going to go up to Notre Dame. I'm going to play. I'm going to start. I'm going to do all this great stuff.
Right.
I get up there on campus, and I've been 18 for 2 weeks. I weigh 205, and I'm slow. I'm 205, but I'm slow.
Oh, my God.
I'll never forget, I was 11th string on the depth chart. 11th string, swear to God.
My God.
Of course, we didn't have anything to take pictures of it with, but I was 11th string. I remember counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like 11. Pritchett. Wow. I was like third string in the freshman class. I'm serious. And anyway, I think it took about 4 days before Coach Kelly said, "You're going to get redshirted this year."
Oh my God!
And so I was the only scholarship player that year that got officially redshirted.
Oh, really?
Also, the only scholarship player that spent the whole year on the scout team.
Interesting.
So I got to run over to the other field. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Instead of having my senior year as an 18-year-old and being an All-American in high school, which I would have been, I got to play against Perino and Plant.
Jesus.
And
every day.
Brooksy and Pinkett and Bavaro and Scannell. Those guys were nasty old school. And, so it was just like either you got to be tough or you got to leave. It was one, So anyway, I remember I was going to leave, and I actually had gotten my transcript. I was leaving.
No, really?
No, I was transferring, dude. I was out of there.
Oh my God.
And my mom's like, "Oh, Wesley, come on." She's real Southern. "Wesley, come on home, darling. We'll find you can go to the University of Georgia." Blah blah blah. And so my dad gets on the phone one night. He's like, "Wesley, let me tell you something, son. You made a decision. By God, your ass is gonna stick to it. Quit feeling sorry for yourself and go out there and work harder than everybody else. I ain't talking about this shit anymore." Click. That was the end of the story.
Wow.
So it changed my life. And so I hung up the phone. I was like, "I'm going to work harder than everybody else. I'm tired of this shit. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself anymore." Then I became Chris Zorich. I started working all Thursday. I'm telling you, man, that was it. And then the next year, I played whatever. I was on every special team. So I pulled a fire alarm on my recruiting trip.
Well, I was going to talk to you about that when you actually gave me time to actually talk about it. So
I was officially. So they tried to tell Coach Faust, that he could not give me a scholarship. I need to write a book.
No way.
He could not give a scholarship to me, and so
because of that.
Apparently, he said it in his book. I've never read it, but he said that he wouldn't return the phone calls from like whoever the dean of students was, or
really
Goldrick or whatever that guy's name was. And so they gave me a scholarship, but I arrived on campus on probation.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, and then my senior year, and then the end of the second semester, I got in trouble and they threw me out. So
what?
I was thrown out of school the week of exams my freshman year. So I lost my entire second semester of class, and I had a 4.0.
Because
I supposedly breaking parietals, which I did theoretically, but I came home from the bar with the seniors, and we walked in where there was like 10 of us with girls. And so we walked in the back door, and some kid let us in, and we went to this guy's room. We're all sitting there in the room, and he went and told the rector. The rector walks in and writes down my name and tells me I broke parietals.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing. I mean, it wasn't nothing. It really seriously was not. My dad went nuts. If you were at the University of Georgia, they'd be erecting a statue of you for good behavior. Bullshit. Those damn hypocrites up there, those Catholics. blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, well, it wasn't hilarious at the time.
Okay, well, so now I can see why now you want to get the hell out of there. Okay, I can see that.
So no. This is after I've already decided now I'm staying.
Oh my God.
So I go home, I get a job with Coca-Cola because Keogh was the CEO of Coke in Atlanta.
Right.
Well, they gave me this great job working on a Coke truck, slinging cases of Coke in the heat in the summer in Atlanta on the cement and all these like gas stations. It was the worst job ever. I was getting paid minimum wage. Had to be there at 7 a.m. I'm not joking. You're at 7 a.m. when you're 18 years old. But it ended up being, I'm telling you once again, if you look back at all these like series of a chain of events,
right.
It was almost like a destiny kind of situation. So long story short, all I did was work out. I would get up at 7 a.m. I would work all day. I would go to the gym. I would eat and go to sleep. And I did rinse, repeat. And I did. So when I showed up in August, dude, I was in the best shape of my life. I ran like crazy. Jerry had us run, I don't know what it was, whether it was a mile or a mile and a half. And I blew it out. Whatever it was, if I had to run a 7-minute mile, I ran a 6-minute mile. And I can't remember what the measurement was. But anyway, then I played, and then I started, that was it. I started playing, and then, it got a lot better. Once I started playing, it was a lot more fun. Let me tell you, sitting at home for a year, as you know, watching your team play on TV is not fun.
It's hard. It's extremely hard.
And God bless the people on our team and in our system at the time, and that were walk-ons and didn't get to go to a lot of the away games. And I think that's one of the reasons Notre Dame was such a unique place, or is such a unique place. And I thought about this after our last reunion, because I took my boys up there and I was introducing them, to Tim Brown and Rocket and Gaddy, who was a walk-on.
Right.
And I didn't think about this until afterwards. I never introduced any of those guys any differently, nor did I see any of them any differently.
Exactly.
Everybody that was in that room, I could have given a shit how much they played. And I never even thought about that till afterwards, because my kids were asking me about it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That we really felt that way about our teammates.
Right. That's very true. But I'm going to go back a little bit. So now you're playing. Is your dad coming up? Your parents coming up for all the home games?
My parents never missed a game.
Okay.
My parents went to every game. They didn't go to all my away games my first year. Oh, man, I can count probably on one hand games that my parents didn't go to.
Wow.
Once I started, that was it. They went to every game.
Right. That's awesome, man. That is great.
And my parents, you were a little younger, so it was like Dave Butler and his parents, Frank and his parents. Then we ended up kind of hanging out with Colo and his parents.
Right.
And
Tim Ryan's parents.
Tim Ryan's parents. Yep. And my parents loved them. Anyway, we had a group of like 5 or 6 parents that went to all the games. And I would take my parents to the parties afterwards. Jesus. I never even thought that I didn't want to take my parents. They were more
that's
fun.
Awesome.
Not all the parties, but
right.
So, because I always give my kids a hard time telling them that I'm going to college with them. They're like, "Dad, you're not going to the parties." I'm like, oh, yes, I am.
I used to take your dad. I used to take your grandparents. You don't understand. I know what it is. You're listening to the Zorich Podcast with Wes Pritchett. Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about, kind of how you got this tenacity, where it was no holds barred, it was snot bubbles out of your nose. I mean, this is kind of what I remember you as a linebacker playing. So just to give you guys a little history, I was on what Wes called the scout team for 1987. And so I didn't have a chance to play. So the first time I had a chance to play with Wes was in 88, and that's the year we won the national championship. But it was great because I was watching him, and he was having so much fun. And so can you kind of talk to us a little bit about kind of this attitude that you had, which was, it's high pressure. We're playing these great teams, but you're out there laughing. You've got snot coming out your nose, and you're not wiping it. I mean, this is what football was all about. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's hard for you to remember who that guy was, but I was always I don't know that I was the most gifted athlete, but I guarantee you, like you, Chris, I was very emotional.
Sure.
And I would work myself up into a frenzy in games. I don't remember most of the games we played in because I was like in a trance. I don't know where I could tap into this hate and intensity. But when the second I put on shoulder pads and a helmet, I liked hitting people. I loved it. I mean, I remember in high school, the kids would fight to have to line up against me in practice because I would just beat them to a pulp.
Oh my God.
I mean, fair, but
right.
Full speed every play. I don't know. My brother was like, "You really liked football?" I was like, "Oh, I love everything. I like putting pads on. I like tasting my fingers.
My God.
I like getting tired. I like giving people burners. I like getting burners." He's like, "Dude, something's wrong." And I said, "Yeah, you're probably right." I don't know. I really did love football. I loved football, and I loved. Once I got to Notre Dame, I felt like I just had I've never had a bond like that. Sorry, I got something on my screen. I never had a bond like that on any sports team that I ever played on.
Really?
I don't think the Notre Dame guys. I don't know. I felt it. I mean, maybe I'm stupid. I guess I did with my high school buddies, but I don't know. I just felt really close. Maybe it's because I had grown so much through those years.
Sure.
Is it going from just a kid to almost an adult? Use that term loosely. A more mature adolescent. I don't know. Speaking about, let's just talk about specifics. So I mean, Foge was a great coach, and I liked Foge, and I was close to Foge. I did not have the relationship with Foge Fazio that I had with Barry Alvarez.
Okay, all right.
And so,
Well, hold on. Let's go back and explain. So Foge was, well, first of all, actually, let's keep your story, but I want to talk a little bit about kind of how the coaching change affected you.
Well, I mean, the only thing that changed was everything, right? So the day that Lou came in and Jerry passed him in the football office. And you remember, were you in that meeting?
I was not. No, I wasn't even there yet.
That's right. You weren't there yet. So we're all leaned back in the chairs, and Lanza has this. I know you've heard this. Lanza's got his.
Oh, this is the best story ever.
Hey, I was sitting right next to Chuck.
Oh my God.
Chuck and I.
Oh my God.
So, then we lived together the next year. But anyway, Lou walks up. He's like, kicks his feet down. When I'm talking, you look me up in the eye. You sit up straight. You listen to what I have to say. You trust, love, commitment. Priorities in life. And he says, we're going to start early morning workouts. I'm not a patient man. It's my way or the highway. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, all the stuff that he's been saying all this time. But we heard it for the first time. And quite honestly, it was like overwhelming. All I remember is he said, we're going to have practice at 6:00 tomorrow morning. You talking about AM? And so I lived at Holy Cross.
Well, you got to explain that. Holy Cross is the farthest door. It is halfway to St. Mary's.
It's a 45-minute walk on the we don't have our cars on campus.
Right.
And in the middle of the winter, and by the way, I tell my kids this, they don't believe it. I walk to class every day across a frozen lake.
Literally.
We walk across the frozen lake every day. And they're like, well, weren't you worried about falling in? I was like, no, but I don't know why I wasn't worried.
Trying to get to class. What do you mean?
I just followed everybody else across the lake.
Oh my God.
So I had to get up. Maybe it was 6. It might have been 6:30. But whatever time I got up, it was
right.
It was dark, and it was about 10 below zero or zero. And I freaking had to walk across that lake in the dark all the way down to the ACC. And then, Chris, this is our first day back from Christmas break, so I hadn't been working out. I mean,
right,
and drinking and whatever, not running. And I think the whole team threw up. I would say 90% of the team. They had, put it this way, they had empty big trash cans placed all around. This is in the floor on the ACC too, by the way.
Oh my God!
It wasn't like on turf. We didn't have that turf field. We practiced on rubber next to the hockey arena.
Yes,
and the ACC on the floor.
Oh my God!
It was
awful.
My God! And I remember I threw up. And I think I stopped and got something to eat. I don't even think I could eat. I was so miserable. And then I remember all I did was go back to my room, close the door, close all the blinds, and sleep all day and not go to any classes or anything. I was absolutely dead. And the good news is we had it the next day.
Right, I was going to say that. Well, but also hold on for a second, Wes. I mean, talk about the culture kind of leading up to that coaching change. I mean, it's not just like, hey, this is Notre Dame, this is a great place. I mean, you guys had some issues.
No, we had major issues. So let me just tell you this. First of all, the team, so the guys that were on Jerry's team, whatever, that Coach Holt, Faust inherited, had lost to Georgia in the 80s Sugar Bowl, right? And then Coach Faust comes in.
Right.
They returned something, I don't know what the number is, 18 starters off that team. So they were legit. We were crazy talented. And the culture had just, was kind of, it just wasn't there. Guys were very negative. There was a lot of disjointed, a lot of negativity. Guys didn't hang out. We didn't believe we could win. Winning is not only a process, but it's a way of thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a few years. So when Coach Holtz got there, not only did he change everything and start the whole, you got to trust in the process. First we'll be best, then we'll be first, all this other stuff.
Right.
Which works over time. And that's what Dabo and Saban, all those guys have guys bought into now. Because it does work. But you have to believe it. And then you have to start believing that you can win. And that doesn't just happen overnight. When Coach got there, he would make us go around and everybody'd have to stand up and say something about them. Whatever. I'm Wes Pritchett. I'm from Atlanta. I got a younger brother. I like to do this.
Right.
And that was kind of interesting because you kind of got to – because, there's cliques on your team. You don't talk to everybody on the team.
Right.
Well, and then the biggest thing I'll never forget him doing, he's like, I want you guys hanging out. I want you all going to movies together. I want you doing this together. And he started creating some events that we started doing together. And so we were talking about when we have our reunions now, I knew everybody on the team. When I got there, I probably knew 20 guys. I mean, I knew the guy. I didn't hang out with I didn't know anything about any of the guys on the team for the most part.
Wow.
And so it just, it happened when you got there, it was already kind of in process.
Right.
But you didn't see from how far we had come.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Right.
And so Frank, there was only 3 of us that were 5th-year seniors, but my freshman or sophomore year, I guess probably my freshman year, we lost 3 home games in a row. Dude, we got booed off the field.
Jesus.
People throwing stuff. I mean, literally booed off the field at Notre Dame. So I always say we went from the outhouse to the penthouse, but that was true. So that's why, fast forward,
right?
Hey, to when you were there in '88, and when we had fun and all that. But when it got down to it, we were also laser focused. Even though we may have been goofy guys, when it got down to the national championship and all that other stuff and big games, because we remembered how far we had come and what we had sacrificed to get to where. Because I knew what it was like to be, 5 and 6. Okay, and that isn't fun.
Right, or losing because you lost to Miami 58.
5-6. Wes Pritchett playing football 5-6 was not the guy you saw in '88. That wasn't. We weren't laughing and smoking cigars and that wasn't happening.
Well, but you were also on the 58-7 Miami loss, right?
I was.
Right. So, can you talk a little bit about this as well? So, because you can talk about it from this aspect of being part of that old guard. I mean, how do you think Holtz was able to kind of mix these young, naive, maybe athletic players with the older guys who had been through all this adversity?
Well, I think it's look. Here's the thing about Coach gave us a framework for life. We didn't know it at the time, right? And it applied to everything. That's why sports and great coaches, their players do so well. Look at the guys that played for UCLA, the guys that played for Coach K, the guys that played for Saban, the guys that played for Dabo, the guys that played for Coach. There's a right and a wrong way to live your life. And it has to do with your priorities and not being selfish. And I mean, I don't want to get on my soapbox and preach, but that's all he preached. He didn't say, young guys, Chris Zorich, your first year starting, you got to talk to this guy. And I didn't give a shit, by the way. Chris Zorich, you're the best player at that position. Let's go. Chris Zorich, I got your back. Wes Pritchett, I got your back. Frank Stams, dude, when we stood in the huddle, did you ever think that anybody in that huddle at Notre Dame was not doing what he was supposed to do?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
never. I mean, it was like I got to play. When I turned around and looked at those guys, I didn't even have to worry about it. And I guarantee that was in '88. Now that wasn't the case the years before. I looked at the huddle. I'm like, that son of a bitch ain't doing his job, and that guy ain't doing his job. And I might have to grab his face mask, and I got to compensate that guy. He's on my left. I got to watch it because I know that tackle's going to hit me. I never thought that. All I thought about was I called the play. I got back in my position and I did what I did. I never thought this guy's weaker than that guy. This guy's not doing his job. He's not covering over there. By the way, other than the Southern Cal game, we didn't blitz the whole season.
Really? I don't remember that. Really?
No, fuck no. We didn't. Really? I'll never forget because we lined up in zone and our base defense and played. We just beat everybody. I mean,
holy shit!
A couple of situations where we eagled down,
right.
And maybe we had some situations where we sent both ends,
right.
But I mean, and maybe we would go man every once in a while.
Sure.
I mean, I called the plays, dude. We didn't call blitzes very rarely, and I'll forget when we got to Southern Cal because he did not game plan it or tell me that we were going to do that. And I remember the first 20 plays, we had 10 linebacker blitzes.
After not having any.
And we stoned them, as you know. And that was, we stoned in that game early. The defense won that game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, hold on, Wesley. We're going to have to go back. Go back. So now it's,
I went straight from 87 Miami to Southern Cal.
Well, no, but I mean, and because you've seen so much, right? Pardon me?
Yeah.
Because you've seen so much, right? I mean, you were there for Faust. So did it seem just like a regular camp in 1988? I mean, did you sense anything special like during summer camp?
If you had interviewed, I thought we would be pretty good. No way was I thinking that. Well, I mean, we had gone to the Cotton Bowl the year before,
right?
And we got our butts kicked in Dallas, as you remember,
right?
And so we were better, right? We were winning more games every year. I mean, I thought we were going to have a great season. I certainly thought we could win every game. I don't remember going into that camp. I don't really remember my framework because remember my father was also in a coma. So
right, exactly.
I just remember dedicating the season to my dad and thinking, I am going to play 150%. I'm going to give this season all I got. That's all I can do. Because when you give it your all, you don't have any regrets.
Right, you're never going to regret it. Right.
Give it. As I always tell my kids, if you don't give it your all, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I don't have any regrets from that year. Never do I remember thinking I didn't work as hard as I could in the weight room, as hard as I could in the off season, as hard as I could I don't remember loafing on a play. I don't remember not covering a guy. I don't have any, and I can, and when I played at a higher level in the pros, I can tell you 10 times where I thought I sucked.
Right.
But I don't remember thinking that in college, or at least that year. So I don't know, but I don't remember. I mean, you got to understand, I always tell guys, think about how many guys that were great players were first-year starters on that team. You, Todd Light, Stan Smagala,
Pat Terrell,
hang on, Jeff Alm,
yep,
Boo Williams,
yep,
Tony Rice,
yep,
Tim Grunhard,
yep,
Rocket Ishmael,
Tim Ryan,
Ricky Waters, dude, are you listening to this?
Right.
Who else? Who else on the O line? Dean Brown,
Tim Ryan.
And I think Andy Heck. Maybe
Yeah,
Andy Heck played. He is
no. He was a tight end, right?
How
Exactly.
about Tim Ryan? Tim Ryan, did he still on that team too?
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, so that's 12 guys. That's a core of our entire team. And then you sprinkle in knuckleheads, like us, and there you go. Me, Frank, Flash, who was the center? Grunhard. Grunhard played guard, right? Who was our center?
It was Mike Help.
Mike Help. Jeez, Mike Help first year too. And he played in the NFL for 10 years.
Yeah.
Whatever many years. So
yeah.
anyway.
So
I think I would, and I don't know if you remember this, but all camp, the offense couldn't do anything. We shut them down. And we had no idea. I mean, look, none of us knew how good Tony Rice was going to be.
Right.
None of us knew how good Rocket Ishmael was.
Right.
Well, none of us knew how good,
Ricky. Right. Exactly.
I mean, we kind of knew, but we whooped. Well, also, it ends up we were one of the best defenses in the country, so we were helping them too. By the way, we were making each other better and didn't even realize it. But I just remember thinking we're going to be pretty good because I think our offense is pretty good. And they couldn't do anything in I don't really remember the spring, but they couldn't do anything that fall or whatever, that summer.
Right.
So anyway, flash forward. So the season starts. I'm a fifth-year senior. I'm only taking a couple of classes. I had a good relationship with Barry, but I would go down and sit and I would watch film with Barry every single day.
Really?
Oh, dude, I was like a player coach. You didn't even know. I would sit in his office. One time, they've been doing this for the whole season. Barry's like, Pritch, come on in. Why don't you just come into the coaches meeting? I don't know what week of the season it was. Probably like third. So I'm sitting in the table with all the coaches, and Lou comes in, and he sits down and starts doing his thing, and he's like, what the hell are you doing in here? Get your ass out of here. Alvarez looks at me. He's like, sorry, Pritch. I didn't really want to be in the meeting anyway. But anyway, the story short was I would sit down in I also didn't realize what a great coach he was. So, bro, I got to sit down, talk about the game plan all week, watch all the film with him, and if I didn't watch it on my own. And then he'd be like, he'd call me in and be like, all right, I want you to come in. He's like, look, some days he'd be like, I want you to get the guys loose and let's, I mean, I did it naturally. He didn't
right.
that. But he also let us be ourselves.
Very true.
But he also let us be ourselves because we were winning.
Right.
It all went together, right? I mean, look, if we lose that first game to Michigan, it ain't as funny the next week.
Not at all.
My little stunts and my little wise ass or whatever I was doing, you know what I'm saying? And then we beat Michigan State. Well, then it's a little bit funnier the next week.
Right.
A little bit funnier the next week. You know, and I think the great thing, too, was Coach Holtz, and we saw how miserable those guys were on offense.
Absolutely.
He had enough respect for Coach Alvarez that he did not interrupt what we had going on.
Right.
And I think if you really remember any of that, and y'all played on some more good teams after that, it's easy for me to remember because it was my last college season. But we had the chemistry on that defense, and as a result, I think the chemistry on the whole team was led by the defense. Nobody had that much fun with their clothes. No. I used to say that all the time. Nobody's having this much fun with their clothes on.
Not at all. Not at all.
It wasn't even like playing football. I broke my hand. I take my finger together. I never even thought about coming out. I ain't coming out of that game. I ain't coming out.
Well, I want to talk about that. Hold on. So there's a story that's true, but this is where we're playing Miami, and was it after tackle? Did you notice? Did you hear anything, or was it like I can't?
It was just a play, and it was like a misdirection, and I kind of went down and I spun around, and I heard my hand pop. I think it's my right hand. It was my right hand. It popped. And I remember, well, you remember before the game, obviously the fight, the tunnel,
right.
Everybody going crazy in the locker room, Lou saying leave Jimmy Johnson's ass for me.
Right.
I mean, and by the way, I already was ready to, if I had a knife, I'd have slit all the throats. I played down there 58-7. Jimmy Johnson blocks a punt, winning 51-7, and throws a touchdown pass with a minute left in the Orange Bowl. So I hated them. He was like, that's a strong word. I'm like, no. Let me just explain to you. I hated them. I still hate them, but it's a little less than it used to be. And so when that happened, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, Chris. I didn't feel it. I did not feel it. I knew it was broken. We ran over the sideline. I called Jim Russ over. I was talking to Barry. I said, I'm like, Jim Russ. He wouldn't come over. I start screaming his name. Finally comes running over here. He's like, what? I said, take these two fingers together. I broke my hand. And I looked back at Alvarez. Alvarez said, you broke your hand. I said, tell me about the defense. And he was like, you broke your hand? I was like, tell me about the defense. Russ tapes my finger together. He calls the defense. That was it.
Well, but what's some amazing, and this is, I mean, I don't know if you knew this, but there's this great, and I don't have the technology to do this, but there's a photo of Jim Russ taping your fingers.
Dude, that was my broken hand. That's him taping my broken hand.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is, and that got no publicity, which I never understood. I don't care.
That's crazy.
But I can tell you this: when I went in at halftime, I went like this. And so I'll never forget. Big John came out, and I said, by now my hand's this big, dude.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's broken. My hand's broken. So it wasn't a finger, by the way. And, it looked like one of those gloves that you get, like a surgical glove.
Right, and you brought it. Right.
So Big John put like he cut out like a piece of plastic and put like a rubber pad on it and pressed it down on my hand and taped it up real tight.
Oh my God.
That was it. And I ran back out. He might have given me a Darvis set. I'm not sure. But yeah, that was it. I mean, and I look back at some of those films. Like there was a play where I hit Cleveland Gary, the ball's loose, and I pick the ball up and I'm running out with the ball in my broken hand.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's awesome.
I get a cut on my thumb, on my fingernail. Now I can't stand. I got. Anyway.
Well, okay. So I want to talk about the USC game, but before that, I want to ask you a question. So it may be either Miami or USC, but do you have a favorite game you had that year?
Southern Cal.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's just get to Southern Cal.
I mean,
okay.
I would say, I mean, I hate to say it. My best 3 games were probably, well, the best 2 games of my career were Miami and Southern Cal. I had the most tackles. I had a lot of big plays.
Amazing.
That Southern Cal game, man. I had 4 of my biggest hits of my career in that game.
That's awesome.
I was killed.
That's awesome.
I had hit what was their running back's name? Aaron.
I don't remember.
Aaron.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Big time too. He was like 230, 225. A big run.
All right, but before the game though, so this is, I mean, everybody knows about this. Ricky Waters and Tony Brooks, they were late to curfew. Excuse me, they were late coming in. They missed curfew.
But it wasn't their first occasion either.
Well, right, but
they had been a little bit of a trouble along the year. I think.
Right.
Other meetings, I think maybe.
Right.
I didn't know it at the time, so I didn't even pay attention to it. But.
Right, but what I'm trying to get at, there was a meeting with the seniors that obviously I'm not a senior, but what happened after that meeting, I'd like to talk about. But can you kind of talk a little bit? Do you remember how that meeting went with the seniors?
I don't remember it. It all happened fast, right? But I remember we had always said that it's my way or the highway. Coach had always said my way or the highway. Nobody else was late to meetings.
Right.
I don't remember. Had anybody been late to a meeting the night before a game that season?
God, no. Absolutely not.
Hell no. Dude, you remember. Nobody was late. Because of that, I have never been late to a meeting in my life. Rarely.
See? There you go. Right.
I don't carry my watch. I don't like the Apple Watch.
LOE time.
They got the time on the real time. When I wear my normal watch,
right,
10 to 15, it's always 10 minutes fast.
Amazing.
So anyway,
amazing.
And that was not their first strike. I don't really remember at the time. But I mean, I don't remember going into the meeting thinking we're sending these son of a bitches home.
Right.
At all.
Right.
I don't even remember. They were like, all right, we're going to have a meeting. I'm just like, I'm just ready to play football, right? I don't know what all this noise is, but I got to get ready for a game, and we're playing a big team tomorrow, and I hate those son of a bitches, and I got to get ready for the game. That's all I remember. And then I remember going into the meeting, and then everybody started talking about it. And they were like, this had, to be honest with you, Chris, this had nothing to do with Ricky Waters and Tony Brooks. It wouldn't have mattered if it had been Jeff Ulm and Stance Magala.
Yep.
It truly had nothing to do with that. And I think that's what people lose. This was not, I had no vendetta against against Ricky Waters.
Right.
But they were an hour and a half late to the meeting the day before the Southern Cal game. And I don't care where you went, and if your car broke down, I didn't believe him at the time, just to be honest. Maybe that was the case. I don't know what happened. It doesn't matter. I wasn't like the only guy. I mean, everybody voted, and I think it was unanimous.
Well, and here's what the end result was. The end result was Holtz having a meeting with the whole team and literally saying at the end of his part, he said, he explained what happened. Then he said, seniors, this is your team. And he walked out.
No, that was.
And I remember.
That game was over, bro.
I remember looking around. Dude, I'm getting the chills right now, man.
This is our team. This is our championship. This is
Dude.
If you play behind him, the next guy up, you jump higher, you run faster, you hit harder. You remember everybody talking about it? When we walked out of that room, that game was over.
See, in West, that's the thing.
Dude, I got goosebumps.
And I'm serious. I'm ready. Dude, I'm ready to go. Let's go, man.
Those son of a bitches walked out of the tunnel. I remember thinking, I'm going to fucking kill you. You big. And they had the biggest offensive line.
Yes.
I remember they broke the huddle, and I thought, jeez. But I was like,
tighten it up. Put your big boy pants on. But see, and although I think Miami was really important for me, my favorite game was USC because of that.
I think the Miami game happened early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
You guys didn't know the back history as much, even though
Miami
was the perennial number one at the time.
Right.
They hadn't lost a game in 2 years or whatever the time horizon was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the biggest game of the year, and for me, because I had so much hatred at the time.
Sure.
And they were number one, and we obviously beat them, and we didn't necessarily want to play them again. But actually, I think we would have played them again. I'd been fine with that. But anyway, I agree with you, because by the time we got to the Southern Cal game, it was the last game of the season. They were 10-0. We were 10-0. All the marbles in the Coliseum. By the way, I was told, I don't know if it's true, that they handed out more press passes for that game than they did for the Super Bowl that year.
Really?
I'm not exaggerating. It makes
Holy shit.
And by the way, I found this out later too. I had no idea. We were a 6-point underdog.
I didn't know that at all. Are you serious?
Point underdog, brother.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. They were favored. Dude, they were stacked.
Hell yeah, they were. Absolutely they were.
This. It's called heart. And we had it. So I've become very good friends with Dan Owens, who played on that team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
D lineman,
Yep.
super guy. He owns a gym here in town. I've worked out his gym for 20 years.
Okay.
And some other guys, Brad Leggett, who played on that.
Yeah. Yep.
Another good guy. And they don't ever really. Dan, for the first 10 years or so I worked out there, he would always kind of say, he just thought we were a little different. And Dan was a tough son of a bitch. Don't kid yourself. He played in the league for 10 years. But I think we were just. They hadn't seen guys blow snot bubbles.
Jeez,
They were out there in California, going to the beach, shaving their bodies, dating models. Hey, I was in Mishawaka, going to a dive bar, getting in a fight, drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, blowing snot bubbles in my helmet at practice.
Oh my God!
And it was free.
Right, exactly. So here's the scenario that really taught me so much about life was, as you mentioned, it could have been anybody who would have been late, but that meeting after Holtz left, I mean, you stood up, Frank stood up, and it was interesting. I don't know if you remember, but Andre Jones stood up and said, "I don't think we're going to win." And at that point, I was kind of like, whoa, I kind of agree with him. He was one of the first people to speak. And then after that, you guys start talking. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to beat the shit out of these guys. Yeah. I mean, it was just this amazing kind of experience that, like, literally you had to be in that room because the coaches left. It was just the players. And it was by far one, and I still remember that. And it's so influential on my daily decisions in life because it just talks about responsibility, leadership, all this other stuff. So we have a chance.
Well,
obviously,
you worked your whole life for the biggest moment in our athletic careers at that time, and we send our leading rusher and leading receiver home, chose by the players because of the principle of what we all stood for. Whatever. I mean, I'm not going to get into
but that's exactly what it is.
Guys, but I remember that meeting too, Chris, and I hadn't really thought about it that much. That I remember, I'd never been more confident we were going to kick their ass. I was not, and when they walked into the stadium, I would look at them like, you got nothing, baby. You don't even understand what's coming your way. No.
All right, so we actually beat the shit out of USC. So then we play the Mountaineers, West Virginia. And I forgot about this, but did you remember that there were like 10 defensive penalties in that game? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I've watched that game 100 times. Yeah, late hit. I had 2 of them. I never had a late hit in my entire career. I had 2 first half.
Well, but as somebody who literally, 5th year, who had gone through these issues with teammates way before the 58-7 loss to Miami. I mean, how does it feel to now be literally 15 minutes, 30 minutes away from winning a national championship?
I can tell you that was the most emotional I've ever been in my life, because it all kind of hit me. I had been home for Christmas, and my dad's still in a coma, and my poor mother's at the hospital every day. And, and I realized that I was one game away from my life's dream, right, to win a national championship at Notre Dame. I mean, to this day, I don't think winning a Super Bowl would have ever, which I didn't, but would not have compared to what this was for me.
Right.
And my family and my dad, and and so it was really, 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 really emotional. And I remember, you won't remember this, but I got off I can't remember if we got dressed before we got to the stadium. Maybe not. No, I don't think we did. But I remember getting off the bus crying. And I don't remember who came up to me and they said, "Pritch, what's wrong?" I said, "I'm going to kill somebody."
Are you serious?
Oh my God, dude. I was fucking out of my mind.
Oh my God.
Best. You go back and watch that game. I was not even on this planet in that game.
Oh my God.
I was on a mission to kill. I would glad they didn't give us like knives and guns and stuff. I was not even, I just was, it was just emotional. I was emotional. I was not going to lose that game. And, I can remember, I won't talk about the names, but I can remember like 2 or 3, I wasn't afraid to have a good time, but I can remember 2 or 3 days before the game, a couple of the guys were going out. It wasn't that late. And I saw them. I said, "Hey man, where y'all going?" And, but I said, "Hey, go get your ass back in the room. Let me tell you a story. We're going to sit tight for the next 2 days, and we're going to party for the next 30 years. We ain't going to party tonight. Go get your ass." I don't know if they stayed in.
Right.
But I had never told anybody to stay in before.
Right. Exactly.
It was that important.
Right.
I mean, I don't think our guys were going out the night before the game anyway. But dude, this was it. This was my Super Bowl. Whatever. I mean, that was all of our Super Bowls, right? That game was never going to be a game. Those guys didn't even. By the time Lou, and another thing too, dude. Lou, we had played so many big games.
Right.
Lou, and there is a. If you watch, and I'm not throwing stones against Notre Dame now. Any program, it's hard to win big games consistently.
Right.
Lou had the formula, though. I never, whatever he did from breaking us down and then building us back up. I always felt like mentally I was prepared for the game on Saturday. When I walked into the stadium, I wasn't flat.
Right.
Like I was ready to play.
Right.
And that didn't happen. I didn't carry that with me with other coaches later. It was a struggle to get up for games before games. They wouldn't even hardly say anything. I'm like, what the? Like, I want to go be with my girlfriend right now. I don't want to play the Browns or whoever it is. But I never had that problem at Notre Dame. And I do believe, that year we had beaten we beat Michigan, who was number 3 or 4. We beat Miami, who was number 1. Southern Cal, who was number 2.
Yep. West Virginia, they were 3, I think, 2 or 3.
West Virginia was number 3 or 4. But anyway, those guys had played big games, but they weren't ready for that game like we were.
No.
And they were pretty good. They were a good team, but we were pretty good too.
Well, no, yeah, absolutely. And then
how many guys? I mean, you go back and look at the guys on those teams. I mean, the whole team. We had second, third string guys that played in the league.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Okay, right.
You are listening to the Zorich Podcast with our guest, Wes Pritchett. And one of the things I want to talk about a little bit about, because we're talking about your senior year, and I want to kind of let people know how fun it was playing with you, right? That sounds kind of weird, but so the idea that, when you kind of made me feel it was okay to kind of laugh and joke and have fun. And so I remember
you were very serious. You were a tough customer. I had to kind of bring it to you.
But it was because of you though that I saw that you were having fun, and I finally was able to kind of relax a little bit because I was so kind of wound up, high pressure, kind of nervous, and you're laughing, joking, and practice. I mean, you got snot running down your face mask, and and you wouldn't wipe it off. And this is the shit that you remember, but it was like, I don't want to let you down. And so it wasn't so much, hey, I was playing for me, but I mean, here's a guy who has been through all the shit. He's a fifth-year senior, and he's out here balling, having the time of his life. I mean, how could you not want to help that guy win, right? So,
but we played hard. I mean, look, yeah, we were having fun, but bro, were we bringing it on Saturday?
Oh no, absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. I might get in a fight on a Tuesday if a guy cut blocked me. I might rip his helmet off and beat the crap out of him on our team. which apparently wasn't happening in the past, right. And so that's kind of what this Holtz. I mean, you guys, this mixture of kind of these old and newer guys, and being able to have this type of success. I mean, this is what made that team. In talking about your leadership, I think, I've never really. I'm shedding new light in my mind about it. You had a group of guys that had gone through so much, and you hear the NFL guys talk about this. We had learned how to win, and what that looked like to be professionals, which you don't usually have enough time to do in college.
Right, exactly.
Develop that as an NFL guy.
Right.
And because I was a fifth-year senior, because I had been through so much,
mm-hmm.
Yes, we were having fun, but we also knew how hard we had to work. And I think, like I said again, if you're not winning, you can't do all that stuff. But you have to keep it light and enjoy yourself to work as hard as you need to work to get to where you need to be.
Absolutely.
But it is hard to work hard if you ain't winning in football.
Absolutely.
That is not a fun sport to be losing in. No. That's when two-a-days and bruises and neck pain, all that stuff gets, you know what I'm saying? All that stuff gets worse. You ask the trainers, when you win a big football game and you know it was physical and crazy, ladies, stop it. After the game, when you win, half as many guys are.
You are absolutely right.
No, ask Jim Russ. He used to talk about
absolutely.
And when you lose, everything hurts. I mean, you're.
What's up, lady? Hi.
We have a visitor. Yeah, that's it. She's protecting me.
Oh, she is beautiful, Wes.
But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, look, what was it that Lou said that I think I carry with me? I say this to my kids so many times that it gets old. The mind controls the body. What the mind believes, the body achieves. And if you want to really get into it, we use like 5% of the capacity of our brain. And if you look at all the athletes that are whatever, the top physicists, the best tennis player, those people are tapping into something in their brain that's not like what everybody else is doing.
Right.
Forget about the God-given talent. Obviously, that helps you.
Mm-hmm.
But look at J.J. Watt, dude. He was a walk-on in college.
Right.
He's tapped into. I mean,
right.
Obviously he's got talent, but that guy works harder. I don't know if you ever watched that. What's the show called? Where they go in and they follow the team through two.
It's like Hard Knocks or something.
Hard Knocks. That's
okay.
So I watched it with the Texans. The guy's an All-Pro, Defensive Player of the Year, whatever the hell all his accolades.
Right.
And after every practice, he was the only guy. He would go back and work on one-on-one drills in his shorts and his pants and his note for an hour. Now they finished two-a-days, and everybody's in, and he's out there still doing drills. So, that says it all.
So let's talk a little bit about. So now you have a chance. So now you've finally won a national championship. I mean, what was it like now? What was it after you? I mean, what did it feel like after you won? I mean, were you just kind of this emotional glob of flesh.
I just remember that being like the most joyous time ever in my life. I mean, it was like I said, that was like I had spent my entire athletic career to try to get to that exact point, which I had never in a million years ever fathom would happen.
Right.
My first couple years at Notre Dame. Ever.
Exactly.
Did I ever even, that thought never even entered my mind. All I thought was, I got to at least I got to play. Right? I can't spend 4 years up here and never play.
Oh.
So, to go from that thought to playing to a new coach coming in to beating Miami, we had a great ride, and to meet the guys I met and to be coached by the coaches I had and to have the relationship with Barry Alvarez and Coach Holtz. And I mean, man, and to meet Ronald Reagan, meet Frank and I gave Ronald Reagan the Gipper sweater in the Rose Garden. I mean, are you kidding me? I tell people that story, they don't believe me. I'm like, I got a picture of it. They're like, that's you standing there to Reagan. I'm like, yeah, that's the Gipper sweater. I'm like, well, that is pretty cool.
It's incredible.
How does it get any better than that?
Right.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Pretty cool.
Right. So now, I mean, you have a chance to go on to the next level. So talk a little bit about kind of how that draft experience was for you. And I know it's totally changed from when we played versus now.
They were telling me I was like, supposed to be like a second round pick, whatever that means. And so, But I can tell you, so we win the national championship. My dad's in a coma. I've graduated from school. And I don't know what the combine is. I've never heard of it. Okay. So I get an invitation to the combine. I have no clue what it is. I have won the national championship. I played in the East-West Shrine game, and I played in like the Hula Bowl.
Okay.
Well, the East-West Shrine game, dude, I'm captains. The captains in that game were Dion, Troy Aikman, Steve Atwater, and I can't remember who the other guy was, and Wes Pritchett. I swear to God.
Nice.
Voted by the players, my friend.
Oh.
So, I thought I was something, and I didn't prepare for the combine, so I went to the combine out of shape, and I didn't perform at the level that I was able to. So I spent my entire life getting there, and then all they had to say was, Wes, why don't you go spend 4 weeks down in Florida with a coach to help you with the 40 and the vertical and all that stuff? Because it's all it is just I had the tape. The tape was fine. You gotta have a couple of check marks.
Right.
I remember the Eagles. Anyway, so I ran like a 5:0:40.
Okay.
4.75. I wasn't blazing fast, but I had I just remember the Eagles told me, if you run a 4.840, we're going to take you to the second round. I thought, well, that's no problem. And then, but like the agility, I remember there was another drill where you stand and you go one side, you touch sideways, and back to the middle. It's just a lap drill. I had the fastest time, or top like 3 for the linebackers, and then I was the second strongest. So there were things I did well, but anyway. So I get drafted by the Dolphins. I get down there. To be honest with you, in hindsight, I was an emotional train wreck when I got out of the sort of the bubble of Notre Dame.
Sure.
I really was able to. Nobody was telling me to go to class. And I'm in Miami, and my dad's in a coma. It was, I could have been more focused. I ended up, I played there a little bit. Then I ended up going to the Bills, which was stupid because I was kind of back and forth with the Dolphins. They took basically most of the rookies and cut them, except like the first 2 or 3 rounds, and put them on the practice squad because they could keep them for free.
Right.
And back then the practice squad was different. You could only keep rookies on the practice squad.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't have a vested year.
Okay.
So basically they just that's not rocket science. Keep 6 vets, put 6 rookies on the practice squad.
Right.
I get cut and put on the practice squad, and the Bills picked me up. Well, I don't know if you remember the Buffalo Bills. They had Shane Conlon, Daryl Talley, Ray Bentley, Cornelius Bennett, and Carlton Bailey and Richard Harvey. They had 6 All-Pros on the linebacker corps, okay? And my agent tells me to go to Buffalo. Well, meanwhile, Miami's got no linebackers.
Oh, my God.
So all my buddies that stayed in Miami ended up playing for 5 or 6 years.
Oh, my God.
Then I go to Buffalo, and, of course, I'm up there for a year or two, and then I ended up going to and I did actually play a little bit, which was shocking. And then I played my last year for the Falcons. So anyway, I had 3 vested seasons, but I got hurt. I broke my hand. I dislocated my shoulder, and I wasn't making any money.
Right.
And I remember being in Buffalo. I had a cast on my broken hand, and I had my right hand or left hand, and I had my other arm in a sling, and I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't finish the bathroom without somebody helping me. And I thought, this really isn't that fun anymore. I mean, look, and I had my best friend from from high school, had gotten a job on Wall Street, and he had gone to MBA school in Chicago. He was like, "What are you doing? The average guys here are making, $350,000 a year," which back in 1992 was a lot.
Right. Right.
And so I was like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. I remember I went home and lived with that guy in the off season. Actually, no, I got hurt. And sorry, that's Siri. My agent gives me more good advice. He tells me to play World Football League. So that was in the spring. Well, the World Football League, I thought it was going to be a joke. Bro, all the guys in the World League were coming from NFL teams.
Exactly, right.
On IR or practice squads or had been injured or whatever.
Needed the tape, right?
Real football. Now, it was fun. We got to stay in Europe for like 3 weeks. But so we had 2-a-days. I mean, I had a full football season, okay? So, I mean, we played like 14 games, traveling all over.
Jesus.
The season ends in July, okay? So I've been playing for 3 months, and so he's like, "All right, are you ready to go to camp? We got these guys and that guy." I said, "There ain't gonna be a camp. I'm done." And that was it. I printed a resume. Well, I worked on it. I got a letter of recommendation from Coach Holtz. My father had always told me that he wanted me to be an institutional bond salesman, and I didn't know what that was, and and what my buddy was.
Oh.
And so I slept on my brother was working in New York, so I slept on Roland's sofa in New York, and I literally knocked on everybody's door. I called everybody I knew. I called Dick Rosenthal, and I got interviews at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Charles Schwab, Payne Weber, Kidder Peabody. I just freaking, dude, I basically, this was Miami. I was not going to take no for an answer. I didn't know shit about Wall Street, nothing. These guys would ask me questions of like, I try to explain it. They'd be like, well, that would be like me asking you what the goal line was. I'm like, well, yeah, I may not know that. But I said, let me ask you a question. Is anybody in this room you think going to work harder than me?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
They're like, who the fuck is this guy? I got a job offer at the time. Solomon Brothers was the hardest place to get a job offer. It was like these couple liars, poker guys. They were the bond guys. And I got a job offer, and I'm like maybe the only guy that ever turned them down because I went to work at Kidder Peabody because they were going to put me in the training program and let me move back to Atlanta. And Solomon was like, we don't know where you're going to work. You might work in Chicago. You might work in New York. By the way, if I had been a bond guy in Chicago with my Notre Dame connections, it would have been stupid. I'd probably still be in Chi-Town. But anyway, it didn't work out. And but anyway, the head guy of trading, my friend who sponsored me, he said they came in there and he goes, "Who is that guy?" He's like, "This kid's 23 years old. He's got all the head executives at Solomon Brothers. All these guys are making like $10 million a year. He's in there telling them how to run their business, basically."
Oh my God.
So anyway, the Wall Street thing was amazing. So I got in the training program. So in my training program, there were 37 or 38 people. 35 of them had Ivy League MBAs, and there were two of us that did, and it was me and not only did they have MBAs, they all had gone to Ivy League schools. Okay, so this all kids from Dartmouth, Yale, Princeton, Brown, and it was me and a guy named Augie Wolf who had gone to Princeton and had just finished fourth in the Olympics in the discus. You talk about a terrible story. He missed a medal in the discus when they throw it like 300 yards or whatever.
Right.
120 yards, whatever. He missed by like 2 inches. He worked his whole life.
Oh my
God. To get to the Olympics, and he missed a medal by 2 inches.
Oh my God.
Terrible story. But anyway, so that was it. I lived in New York. So I lived in the downtown athletic club for 2 years. So they put me up for free in the DAC. It was unbelievable. Probably 2 of the best years of my life. My brother was living up there. Dave Butler was living up there.
Oh.
It was awesome. Awesome. I had no responsibility, and I learned everything. I mean, my office was 2 buildings down from the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, I literally was working at Wall Street and Broad Street. Goldman Sachs was across the street. I mean, I walked by the Bull every day, the big, like the Bull in the middle.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wall Street or whatever. So, I mean, I guess that's as Wall Street as you can get. So that started my career. And then, I've been doing that since, so that was in 93. So that's a 28-year career.
Jesus.
I'm not in the bond business. So we would run portfolios or help run and trade bonds for banks, insurance companies, money managers, hedge funds, institutional. So I'm talking, I was covering like Bank America, SunTrust, at the time, First Union, which became Wachovia, which became Wells. I mean, huge, hundreds of billions of dollars. But then about 7 years ago, I moved out of that business with my brother. We started, he had been doing wealth management. So I transitioned into wealth management, started transitioning about 7 years ago. And so now we just work with, wealthy families, doctors, attorneys, business owners. And I do we do everything. Financial planning, help them with estate planning. Guys want to know that they're with somebody they like and they can trust, and they're going to be there.
Right.
Worked out all right.
So throughout, I mean, literally your whole career, college, I mean, what did you learn about leadership? Because just to kind of a little bit, I mean, I thought my basis of leadership was like my coaches, Coach Holtz, everything else. But when I started thinking about it, as I got older, Holtz may have helped me refine what I knew about leadership. But I was elected captain in my high school, yet I wasn't very vocal. Okay. So
that was never my problem.
Where did those leadership qualities come from, right? So I'm always kind of curious on kind of what do you think, not necessarily, I mean, how you got the leadership qualities, but where do you think that they came from?
Well, that's a tough question. I've never really thought about that. I think a lot of it was God-given. I think I've always been, they say they're leaders and followers. Certainly it's learned over time.
Right.
Refined with a certain coach that changes your entire perspective. I was always very vocal, very emotional. I'm not going to say I was a natural leader, but you eventually became. Well, I think I was taught you lead by your action. Your actions speak louder than your words.
Okay.
My mom used to always say, no, wait, what did she say? I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is that people will follow you. You don't have to be the most vocal guy in the room to be a leader. Mm-hmm. And just because you're vocal doesn't mean you're a leader.
Right.
At the end of the day, what do you stand for, and what example are your actions showing people? Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, I may cuss too much. But at the end of the day, I'm in the weight room is more than most guys. I'm in working harder on the practice field. Yeah, I may be having fun, but I'm playing. I'm showing results. You know what? I mean, look, you'd be the first one to admit. I mean, when you think about any of the guys on our team, do you ever think that anybody was cutting corners in the weight room? I mean, whatever coach did to convince us that we had to give 120% all the time, everybody just did it. We didn't think of, I never thought about it. I just did. It became habitual.
Right. Well,
here's
here's
my kids, what you think is hard work today will not be hard work if you choose to play at another level.
Right.
And I can continue to tell you that, but until you see it, you're not going to believe it.
Right.
Until you get to a college and see what other guys are doing, especially today. I can't even imagine what these kids are doing.
Right.
As far as how hard they're working. I mean, I'm telling you, so my older son, I told you, plays wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
There was this guy, current player at Clemson, and my son is 6'3", okay? This kid was at least 2 inches taller.
Okay.
Had his legs were, I don't know, what has he got, 38 inseam? I've never seen a guy put together like that. I've met Julio Jones and who's a stud.
Okay.
Terrell Owens.
Okay.
Physical freaks. This kid was a bigger physical freak, and he was a sophomore at Clemson. He's a wide receiver, and they list him at 6'3", 225. He's 6'5", 240. So, I mean, how's that kid? I mean, that guy, I can't imagine what that guy looks like in the weight room.
Right.
Their quarterback, wait till you see their quarterback this year. He played against us last year. He's 6'5", 250. He looks like a DN. My son goes, Dad, that's a quarterback. I thought it was, he'd been standing there for about 10 minutes. I thought it was a defensive end.
Oh, my God.
So, anyway, sorry, I get so freaking sidetracked. But
we're talking about leadership.
I think going back to leadership, I think leadership, you know what? I think once, at least for me, nobody had ever told me like all this, like do the next right thing and which is a pretty good one. And, you know, your actions lead. I don't know. And once you start leading people and people start looking up to you, I think you feel a responsibility. It kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit. I don't think anybody wakes up and says, I'm going to be a leader today.
Right.
You know, I think it happens over time. I mean, look, my sophomore year, I didn't have the swagger I had my senior year, but my senior year, I had swagger for a couple of reasons. I knew I was pretty good. I knew linemen couldn't block me. I knew I was going to make tackles. And I knew that I could get you son of a bitches fired up, and I was going to, and it got me fired up. Right? I mean, what did you do? We were all, I'm not even saying that I'm a leader. I never thought of myself as a leader. I just was doing my thing. I wanted to win.
Right.
That was it. I wanted to win. I wanted everybody to play well. And look, you played more at the next level. I mean, I guess up there, everybody's really good. And you know how it is. I mean, at least for me, my experience it was never as emotional. I mean, maybe some of the teams are, but I didn't give a flying shit about anybody in the locker room. Maybe 2 guys.
Right.
When the practice was over, guys went in 58 directions.
Exactly.
We showed up and did our job and left. There were 2 or 3 guys I became friends with, and we'd go play golf and goof off and go do stuff together. And maybe there's some guys, you know, that get married and their wives become friends and all that. But it's not a camaraderie thing like college is, in my opinion. I mean, my experience.
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, you know, it was, my best 4 years of my career. I mean, even when I didn't play, was at Notre Dame. It was just being around the guys. And it was so funny because one of the things that motivated me so much is when I wasn't able to play, and you're not going to remember this because, you know, you guys were playing, but when we would have our team meeting and we'd go through the relaxation period at Loftus, and then the people that were going to the hotel, or Moreau, they were going this way, and then all the people on the scout team and everybody else that were just kind of taking up space, they had to go back to their dorms. And I remember, and I was one of the guys going back to my dorms.
I did that for a year too.
And I remember walking away and looking back and going, someday I'm going to do that. Now that's small, and maybe the guys that I was walking with, maybe they were worried about other things. I just remember turning around going, someday I'm going to be over there. And it wasn't a big deal, but it was for me.
I can remember my freshman year when I was, whatever, I said the scout squad, but I wasn't traveling. And they had Coach Holt, but I was like you, and I can remember you over there giving Lanza fits because you gave it your all. And I would do the same thing. So the guys would get pissed off at me because they wanted me to just be a tackling dummy, and I wouldn't. And Bavaro used to kill me because of it. And he was a man, and I was a kid. And I'm serious. I mean, he was a freak. But anyway, so I was doing the same kind of thing. So they had, I think we would do practice player of the week or something like that.
Okay.
And I used to have a plaque for it. I don't know where any of my stuff is anymore. Anyway, long story short, I got to travel. And I got to travel so I had never been on the buses or anything, dude. All right? That's the coolest part of being a player, in my opinion. I was telling my kids about that this weekend. So I get to fly. We're playing Navy in the Meadowlands. So I get to fly to New York, which is a big deal for me. I still hadn't been on planes very often with the team, which I had never done. And then we land in New York, and then we get the police escort through, I don't know if we flew into Newark or LaGuardia or wherever we flew into, but, to the hotel, and then from the hotel to the Meadowlands. And I thought to myself, there's nothing that is going to keep me from not getting this is what I want to do. And I am going to do it. And I don't care what it takes. Everybody's got to have their own motivation. But, if I had another year in high school, and I would have had a great year, and there's no way in hell I would have gone to Notre Dame. I would have gone to Georgia, or I would have probably gone somewhere, or Texas or UCLA, or I would have gone somewhere with a little more social life probably. But it was, it was all meant to be for a reason, and it changed my life, and it's the greatest thing that ever happened. I mean,
sure.
My experiences there changed me as a human being, I wouldn't have been working on Wall Street. I mean, I have no regrets. None. I have no regrets. No regrets.
Okay, so we're going to wind down a little bit, but this is going to be the last question. So with that saying, no regrets, what would you tell a 17-year-old Wesley Pritchett coming onto Notre Dame's campus?
Coming to Notre Dame?
Uh-huh.
I would say you don't know everything. You need to have humility. You need to work harder than everyone else. And you need to be persistent and never give up no matter what. And you'll learn more from being knocked down than you will from being raised up. And that's basically what I tell my kids. That's what I've told them from day one. I said, listen, this is a great country. This is what my dad told me. This is a great country. Life isn't fair. If you work harder than everybody else, you can do anything you want if you want it bad enough. It's up to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do the next
That
round.
is awesome. Well, but
Tell somebody you love them.
This is this is what is amazing. When I've talked to guys, I mean, what they're talking about, kind of what you alluded to when you came back for the reunion. This guy's not a starter. This guy's not a walk-on. I mean, this guy didn't lead the team in tackles in the national championship. Oh yeah, he did. But I mean, we don't talk about the stats. We're talking about those experiences. And so when you talked about your first trip that you made on the plane being on a traveling squad, I remember that exact same situation happened to me. And that's what motivated me as well. So this is not about the successes we've had. This is about those relationships. It's about those experiences. And it's amazing that after 20, 30 years, I mean, I could still get chills when we're talking about a meeting about our team.
And that's what's special. I have thought about it in 25 years probably.
Exactly.
But I can remember it like I was sitting there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, look. I mean, I'll leave you with this, and you may know this already. Is it Brian Fenton, the general?
I have no idea.
Yeah, you do. Brian Fenton, the guy that was the trainer, that is he's the 4-star general in the Marines.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I think it's Brian Fenton. He just won at Notre Dame. All right.
Okay.
Long story short, he runs all the special forces of the Pacific Fleet for the Marines or for the whatever. I mean, I don't know what special forces is under. He's a badass, right? He was the trainer at Notre Dame. He's a 4-star general.
Jesus.
4-star dude. He was the chief advisor to the Secretary of Defense under Trump. So he was the second in command in the entire armed forces for the last.
Had no idea. No idea.
Well, I didn't either. But I saw him like 10 years ago, and he was, had a crew cut, and he was all, and I was like, "Hey, Brian, what's up?" And he walked away, and Dave Butler goes, "Do you know who that is?" I go, "Yeah, it's Brian." 3-star at the time. He was a 3-star general. Maybe he's whatever brigadier.
Right.
It's a big deal. I'll send you the link to who the guy is. But anyway.
Oh my God.
So he played. So he was there when Lou came in. He was there when you were there because he was there in Lou's first year.
Okay.
You were a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I've been in a lot of fields of battle. I've been around a lot of leaders around the world. And I can tell you, there has never been, of all those guys, Lou Holtz is a more developed and precise leader of men than any of those men. And we were all honored and blessed to be in his presence.
Wow.
I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
He's talking.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I got to tell that story to Lou. He'll like that.
Yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do. Wes, this was awesome, dude. We actually went a little over. I apologize about that.
I talk a lot.
No. This is what this is about. This is about these stories that you don't think about for the last 20, 30 years, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell? I mean, when was the last time you thought about snot running out of your nose getting frozen on your face mask?
I don't remember that really happening, but
giving us a play. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's disgusting. Oh, it happened, believe me.
Well, I can remember all you guys taking DMSO and freaking breathing that stuff on me. I think that's why I started doing it to fight back.
And for those folks who don't remember or don't know what DSMO is, it was this crazy ball.
Using that.
I should say it was the solve that I'm surprised we haven't grown like another arm or something.
It would get rid of soreness in your muscles. Unbelievable. You had a strained muscle, you put that on there, but it made your breath smell like garlic cloves on.
Yes.
I don't know exactly what
yes.
it was, but it was awful.
Right. And like literally, I think they wound up banning it. Like I think maybe like 4 or 5 years after we were out of college.
And while we were using it.
Wes, this has been great. I'd like to thank everyone watching and listening to this episode of the Zorich Podcast. I'd like to thank my director and producer, my wonderful wife, Candy. If without her, I would not be able to do the show. I had to say that, obviously. This podcast, along with our other podcasts, are on my YouTube page at youtube.com/ChrisZorich50, as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Also, check out the description below, because we have a list of books from Amazon from folks who have been on the podcast, like Coach Holtz, Joe Montana, Jerome Bettis, and others. Once again, thank you guys very much. This was a pleasure, Wes, and it allowed me to kind of go back to my 18, 19-year-old self again, because as I said, man, you were very instrumental in my success on the team, because I had a chance to kind of enjoy the game because I was watching you. So thank you.
Hey, well, listen, I can tell you this. I made a lot more tackles when you were at nose guard. Had to double team you, and they couldn't block me. So I appreciate your efforts. You got the block. And so I owe you on that one.
Fair enough.
I tell everybody that. I probably should. It's funny. You tell everybody that, then you don't even tell the guy that's actually doing it. I don't know why. I'm not trying to keep it from you. I just thought about it. But seriously, that is a fact. And I'll never forget. They were like, "Why'd you have so many tackles the next year?" I said, "Chris Zorich."
It was a special year, man. I mean, it was amazing, man. It was amazing. It was amazing. All right, brother. It was great, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You got it.
Good to see you.